2, 1.
Dobar dan i dobrodošli na 7. forum socijalnih inovacija. Zadovoljstvo mi je da smo i ove godine sa nama, uprkos sve one izazovnoj godini, da smo uspeli da organizujemo konferenciju ovog puta zaista inovativno u virtualnom izdanju. Zadovoljstvo mi je da vas pozdravim u ime cijelog Smart Collective tima koji je organizovao ovogodišnju konferenciju. Moje ime je Ivana Stančić i ja ću vas voditi kroz program prvog dana. Kako je ovaj prvi dan Međunarodni dan konferencije i imamo veliki broj stranih govornika, zvanični program današnje konferencije biće engleski jezik, tako da ćemo se sada prebaciti na engleski. So welcome to the 7th Social Innovation Forum. My name is Ivana Stančić from Smart Collective and I will be the MC today. On behalf of Smart Collective team, I would like to extend my warm welcome to all the guests and speakers of the 7th Social Innovation Forum conference. It is our first virtual conference, but I'm sure that in this year it's not the first or the last one online conference that all of you will attend. This year's conference focuses on empowering social economy and social entrepreneurs, especially in time of crisis like COVID. And lastly, I would like to sincerely thank and acknowledge the partners that have supported the organization of this event. Social Innovation Forum is organized by Smart Collective in partnership with Responsible Business Forum since 2014. And SIF2020 is organized as part of Framework for Giving project funded by US Agency for International Development and implemented by Coalition for Giving led by Ana and Vlade Divac Foundation. And other coalition members are Trag Foundation, Katalist, Balkan, Smart Collective, Serbian Philanthropy Forum, Responsible Business Forum, and Serbian Chamber of Commerce and Industry. It's my pleasure now to invite Neven Marinović, Director of Smart Collectives, to join me also in the opening ceremony and welcome all the guests.
I'm already here.
Yes.
How convenient. So, thank you, Ivana. Thank you very much. And also welcome to the Social Innovation Forum. I'm not sure who organizes this conference, but I have to object that lunch is not provided, as I see in the program. I even had to make my own coffee, so this is a bad start, I would say. On the positive side, I think we have a lot of people joining us today for the conference, and a lot of very interesting speakers and topics. So I think from my side, I would just like to emphasize that the fact that we are organizing this conference online shows how great the challenge we are facing. I think the challenge that we are facing, and I think it is clear to all of us, is not only of health nature, it has to do also with our environmental ecosystem, it has to do with our social system, it has to do with the way that we are used to cooperate in the economic sphere, it has to do with inclusion, with inequality, and I think, this has just, in a way, outlined the weakness and the fragility of the systems that we take for granted. And I think this shows even more, I would say, a need for commitment and dedication from actors such as Smart Collective, but also all the other partners that we work with to support what we call solidarity economy, social economy, because I think that definitely the business-led solutions to social and environmental problems and challenges are, in a way, a big part of the solution to the crises and challenges that we are facing now. What we would like to do in this couple of days, almost a full week, is to promote best practices, to showcase some of the solutions that work, to provide, even if it's online, more networking, especially networking within this region that we are representing and between this region, Europe, and the rest of the world, of course, because I think it is our mission and the mission of the Social Innovation Forum to promote this region, to promote its potentials, its capacities, to promote all the good things that are happening here, and to try to, garner and to kind of to try to establish stronger links and to get more support, more cooperation, and I would say more good projects in the future that are happening and supporting this region that we truly believe in. So to cut a long story short, I'm sure my opening speech is not what you joined here for, so I will, give it back to you, Ivana, so that we can move forward.
Thank you, Neven. Next, I would like to invite Ms. Shanli Pinkotti, Director of Office for Democratic and Economic Growth, USAID Serbia, to join us. USAID Serbia has been supporting social innovation forums since 2014 and has been a long-term partner in development of social economy in Serbia. I would like to invite Ms. Shanli Pinkotti to deliver her welcome speech now.
Thank
Hi, Shanli.
you, Neven. Hi, everybody. Nice to see familiar faces.
Hello.
Yeah, hi. Thank you, everyone, for this wonderful opportunity to address you all today. As you may have seen from the media, last week we were busy, and I'm actually exhausted from all the visitors in town, but it was really constructive in terms of US-Serbian relations. So we're really happy that the United States will be making more concentrated investments in Serbia via the US Development Finance Corporation. While these investments are large scale, I think they are relevant for today's forum because any kind of investment requires vision, innovation, commitment, and an appetite for risk. These are qualities that clearly many of you here today possess, and I'm looking forward to hearing more about all of them. As you probably know, one of USAID Serbia's main goals is to strengthen the enabling environment for private donations. We are proud partners of the Framework for Giving project, which is implemented by the Coalition for Giving and led by the Ana and Vlade Divac Foundation. Other important coalition members are the Trag Foundation, Katalist Balkans, Smart Collective, the Serbian Philanthropy Forum, the Responsible Business Forum, and the Serbian Chamber of Commerce and Industry. The Coalition for Giving is dedicated to improving the legal and policy framework for corporate and individual donations. An important part of the project is also focused on developing innovative financial mechanisms and instruments which can support community actors and initiatives. This past year, Smart Collective, with our support, developed and piloted the first venture philanthropy fund in the region. The fund provides tailored financing and long-term financial support for initiatives that help improve the economic and social inclusion of vulnerable groups and communities. This fund is also expected to provide a new approach to philanthropy among investors, investees, and decision makers, which can have positive long-term effects. Social entrepreneurs are changing the way we are approaching different social issues, but they still lack a more favorable environment and adequate financial investments to grow their impact. Therefore, it is important that all of us build cross-sector partnerships and find new ways to support innovators, especially social entrepreneurs and youth. Building strong partnership between the nonprofit sector, the business community, and the public sector is an important step toward creating a more favorable environment for investments in social innovation. Only in this way can we expect that limited resources and time and energy invested will produce long-lasting results. USAID has supported the Social Innovation Forum since its inception in 2014. The forum is an important platform for sharing experiences and learning from trends and best practices in Europe and beyond. It is also an important opportunity to celebrate innovative solutions, as well as those social entrepreneurs, companies, and individuals whose work has brought positive change in their local communities. So today, I just want to salute all of you here that are taking risks and leading actions that better your communities. I look forward to hearing about what's new this year and wish you all an inspiring week. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Ms. Pinkotti. Next, I would like to invite Ms. Mera Yuzbasic-Bajgoric, Regional Director of the Finance in Motion, to join us. Finance in Motion is one of the strategic partners of Smart Collective and has strongly supported development of the impact economy in Serbia and Western Balkans. They had strong role in development and implementation of Smart Collective Investment Ready Program and finance facility for social enterprises that Ms. Pinkotti has already mentioned. I would like to invite now Ms. Mera to deliver her welcome speech. Mera? Hi.
Thank you. Hello, do you hear me?
Yes.
Okay. Hello, everybody. Yes, Neven and Ivana, thank you very much for inviting us to be part of the opening speeches of this important regional event. As Ivana said, I'm here on behalf of Finance in Motion. That's the asset management company that is currently managing several regional and topical funds and European Fund for Southeast Europe, and its Entrepreneurship Academy program is the part of its portfolio. We started cooperation with Smart Collective a few years ago, and I can say that a lot has been achieved since then. We are happy that our cooperation has resulted in a number of social entrepreneurs who are today very well equipped and capable to grow and develop their businesses further. In particular, we are happy that the 10 social entrepreneurs came out from the Smart Collective Investment Readiness Program this year, and they will be pitching later today in front of the potential private investors. I honestly believe that this is a really great achievement. Also, European Fund for Southeast Europe, its development facility part, is one of the first supporters of the Smart Collective Impact Fund. I think it took us some time, but at the end, jointly with Smart Collective, we have realized how important is tailored finance and how important are hybrid financial instruments for social entrepreneurs. And this especially because access to finance for social entrepreneurs, startup businesses, and entrepreneurs in the early stages of their development is still quite limited. I would also like to say that next to Smart Collective, we are also working with other social entrepreneurship support organizations, such as Mosaic in Bosnia, ACT Group in Croatia, and CEPS in Montenegro. And these institutions are part of our Regional Impact Forum initiative that will hold a workshop this Friday as a part of this forum on a topic which is quite relevant for today's situation. And this is financial management for micro and small enterprises in crisis. And to my knowledge, many of entrepreneurs that are participating in the forum today have already registered to participate also in this workshop. And last but not the least, I would like to highlight the importance of private sector taking part in the initiatives that support access to finance for entrepreneurs. And we would like to invite all private investors present today to more actively engage in the impact investing community. And I think they can start when investing in Smart Collective's Impact Fund. Because it is only that the joint initiatives between all stakeholders of one community can make a larger, longer impact and can create a conducive business environment. Thank you very much for your attention, and I wish you a great event.
Thank you, Mira, so much. So now we are starting the program of the conference. And this week we have almost 40 truly amazing speakers, experts, and practitioners. And just a brief introduction to how this conference will work. You can follow the sessions you have registered for via streaming channels you have selected, and you will get it on your emails. And we will try to make the conference as interactive as possible with short and interesting sessions, but you can also join the conversation by asking questions to speakers via our Facebook page or YouTube channel, and we will forward the questions to the moderators. So finally, it's time for the first session of the conference, and it's my pleasure to invite Susan Wiese-Haskis, Director of Euclid Network, to join me. Susan, hi.
Hi, Ivana.
Welcome. Euclid Network is connecting and empowering civil society and social enterprises leaders to drive positive change, and Smart Collective is a proud and active member of Euclid Network. Through the network, we have amazing opportunities to network with its members, but also to influence European policy and raise the visibility of the region. And we have really a pleasure to host some truly inspiring and high-level speakers today from Europe's leading organizations. And I won't take more time from session. Susan, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Ivana. Thanks a lot. Warm welcome to the first session of the Social Innovation Forum today. I think we all just enjoyed a great opening and a few key messages I already picked up that indeed USAID mentioned to strengthen the infrastructure, the importance of cross-sector partnerships. Finance in Motion highlighted also the role of the private sector. And in this session, we're definitely going to touch upon those topics. What we're going to do is to talk about social businesses in the CE region and what can we do to support them better. Now, that's quite a broad question, but in the next hour, we are going to hear from a unique set of experts that will all highlight their own perspective. I would like to present the panelists. First up is Anne Branch from the European Commission. She's head of unit DG Employment, Social Affairs and Inclusion. Good afternoon, Anne. Then we have Francois Bonici. He's the director and head of the Schwab Foundation. Hi, Anne.
Hi.
The Schwab Foundation is connected to the World Economic Forum, and there's also a co-initiator of the COVID Response Alliance for Social Enterprises, which is a unique collaboration of 60 organizations focused on social enterprise, launched this year. Thank you also for being here, Francois. And while he's coming in,
great to be here. Thank you.
And the third panelist is Neven Marinovic, who we all just met. He's the director of Smart Collective and the Responsible Business Forum. And he will also highlight from the region, give his view to us on this question around how can we better support social businesses. Hi, Neven, thank you again. And thanks to Smart Collective for getting us all together virtually this year at the forum. For those of you who don't know me, indeed, Susanne of Euclid Network. We are the Network for Social Enterprises, and I'll be moderating the session. Now, looking at the topic, first to introduce it, social business in CE and how can we support them better. Let's start off with why is it even important to support them? Why is it key? Why is it such an important question today? And what we have seen in the last decade is that social enterprises and impact-driven leaders have really outperformed their peers while tackling the triple threat of economic, social, and environmental crisis, even before the COVID crisis. And therefore, we strongly believe that social enterprises and social innovation are also an important factor in addressing these global challenges. But no social business operates in a vacuum. Many interdependent systems, institutions, and networks enable social enterprises to flourish and, more importantly, scale their impact. That's exactly, in the end, what we all want to see. So governments, of what to name one, are an important part of the social enterprise ecosystem. In addition to governments, it was already mentioned in the opening ceremony, funding sources. They enable social enterprises to start up and scale up their innovation. And these funders include many of you present today, impact investors who seek both financial and social return, as well as foundations and other traditional philanthropic organizations that provide grants to these social enterprises. Another important group is, of course, the beneficiaries and customers who use the services that social businesses provide. Then we have the universities and research centers that can evaluate the impact that is actually made by the social businesses. And finally, most importantly, perhaps, we have the peer organizations that form a crucial part of the social enterprise organization. So peer-to-peer learning from social businesses themselves. And you may, or they may compete for funding or customers with other organizations, but in the end, they can share information and practices, collaborate, and also support their activities. So we've established that a strong ecosystem is key. And we also believe that the most successful examples of social innovation occur when people collaborate across public, private, and civil sectors, bringing together all the diverse perspectives on the problem and different approaches to solve it. Now, without further ado, our first panelist, let me make a short introduction. She will highlight the perspective and activities from the European Commission. We have with us Anne Branch, head of unit DG Employment, as mentioned, Social Affairs and Inclusion. Now, we're very lucky to have Anne with us today. She's been working for the European Union institutions for about 20 years. She heads up the unit which is responsible for the implementation of the EU's social business initiatives, for instance, including the developing policy and financial instruments that support social enterprise. Entrepreneurship opportunities for underrepresented and vulnerable groups, including the EU microfinance instruments. So without further ado, please, Anne, go ahead. The floor is yours.
Okay, thank you, and Suzanne, and thank you for inviting me today, and thank you to Smart Collective. Congratulations for managing to get this event off the ground during these difficult times. Can you hear me okay? Or should I turn off my mic? Sorry, my camera, or is the sound okay?
I can hear you good. Yeah, that's good.
Okay. Good. So yeah, indeed, as Suzanne said, I lead a team in the European Commission working on social and inclusive entrepreneurship in DG Employment, Social Affairs and Inclusion. And our work is precisely aimed at building an enabling environment for social business in the EU. We do this in three main ways. We do it through policy support to member states, through funding, and by supporting European networks and capacity building, including networks such as Euclid. Now, before I go into these aspects of our work in a little bit more detail, I'd like to just quickly recap the history and evolution of the EU's policy agenda for social business. So you can see here on the slide. So our work really dates back to the 2011 Social Business Initiative, or the SBI as it's called for short. It was accompanied by new funding opportunities launched as of 2014 under both the Employment and Social Innovation Programme and the European Social Fund. So this was a really important first. Then came the Commission's Startup and Scale-Up Initiative in 2016, which included a dedicated chapter on social economy, social enterprises. Now, in terms of content, the SBI and the Startup and Scale-Up Initiative both emphasised the importance of improving framework conditions, so the enabling environment to enable social enterprises to emerge and prosper. And the issue of access to finance was a very important one. Now, the Startup and Scale-Up Initiative added the role of new technologies and also recalled the importance of the international dimension, which was becoming increasingly apparent. Now, looking ahead, 2021, so next year, marks a new stage for us as we're preparing a Commission flagship in this field. It's going to be called an Action Plan for Social Economy, and it's to be adopted in the second half of next year. And so this work is actively underway and heavily engaged in a process of stakeholder engagement. Now, this action plan is being prepared, of course, against the backdrop of the COVID-19 crisis and the Commission's new European Green Deal, which is committed to the green and digital transitions, but delivering them in a socially just and fair way. The action plan will look at the needs of all the different types of entities in the social economy, and the idea will be to bring EU solutions where the EU has a role to play. And it will also look at the contribution to social innovation. Now, having this action plan on the horizon is very important. It is important to renew political commitments, and this will help to give visibility and legitimization to work on social economy, not just at the EU level, but also the support it sends to the national level. And so this will really help us to continue our work to improve the enabling environment. But if I move on now to specifics and what we've done so far to foster the enabling environment through policy work, we really worked hard to improve the European knowledge and evidence base on social enterprises. So, for example, we've developed the first comparative European mapping study of social enterprise ecosystems, covering 36 European countries, which was finished this year. So that's a massively rich source of data. Now, we've also worked with the OECD to develop thematic policy briefs and to undertake country reviews. And as we didn't want this knowledge just to be static and stay on a shelf or on an internet site, we wanted to really mobilize it to generate reforms. And so we've done a lot to facilitate mutual learning between countries. And so also with this aim in mind, we've developed a tool called the Better Entrepreneurship Tool, also with the OECD, to provide policymakers with a dynamic tool to help them understand better how to design their national and local ecosystems for social enterprises. But perhaps if we can move on a slide. Thank you. So, I mean, that's just in a very short snapshot of some of the things we've done. But what's the impact of all this been? Well, we think EU policy support has had a significant impact. We commissioned an independent study, which is near finalisation, which examines the impact of the Social Business Initiative and subsequent work. And over 300 stakeholders have been interviewed for that. And it confirms, I mean, there are many findings, but just a few headlines here. It confirms that the SBI, this EU-level initiative, certainly gave a certain political legitimisation and helped to inspire developments at the national level. I mean, because essentially high-level support at EU level, the work of EU-wide networks and EU funding support has really helped to raise awareness at national level and to improve institutional frameworks through the setting up of working groups or task forces on social enterprises. Now, more concretely, it's led to more specific legal frameworks for social enterprises and the social economy, and improved legal recognition in several European countries. So since 2011, overall 16 member states have adopted new legislation related to social enterprises. And the analysis also reveals interesting patterns regarding how ideas and concepts found their way into new regulatory and institutional frameworks over the last 10 years and how the SBI was influential in helping to spread them. But in addition to legal frameworks, new policy frameworks and strategies have also emerged, both in countries with an advanced ecosystem and those with moderately or less developed social enterprise environments. Now, in most cases, EU co-funding has encouraged this development, or at least the co-funding has supported some key measures. And according to our mapping study that I mentioned earlier, this concludes that the European Social Fund and the European Regional Development Fund have really been a game changer in some countries, particularly in Central and Eastern Europe, where there was no other funding, and it's helped social enterprise ecosystems start to emerge. And I think it's important to note that almost €1 billion has been earmarked under the European Social Fund in the current period, specifically for social enterprise support. So perhaps if we can move on the slides. Thank you. Now, I mentioned that another important avenue of work for us was improving access to finance for social enterprises, and that was already mentioned by some of the speakers. So since 2014, we've put in place a range of policy instruments, a real toolkit to catalyse social finance developments in Europe and to try to address all parts of the ecosystem. A lot's happened. We've also learned a great deal, and we've tried to develop our support along the way. So with regard to repayable finance, we set up financial instruments which are implemented for us by the European Investment Fund. These have covered the full spectrum of debt, equity and guarantee instruments targeted at boosting lending and investment in microfinance and in social enterprises in smaller ticket sizes below the €500,000, which is a recognised market gap because you can't scale up unless you start up. But as I said, we've been learning along the way, and we could see that markets across Europe were at different stages of development. So we've complemented these financial instruments with grant support, which has been managed directly by us at the Commission to help develop these markets. And we've designed the calls to address different phases of development and to trigger the creation of new intermediaries and funds in countries. And we tried to develop both the supply and demand side. And one such example was actually a project implemented by Smart Collective in Serbia between 2017 to 2018. More recently, we launched the transaction cost grant scheme to support the overhead cost of funds investing in small ticket sizes for social enterprises, so to try to develop the market for patient capital. The Commission also provides operating grants to help finance the running costs of several European networks, which perform a valuable research, networking and capacity building role, and Euclid is one of these. And most recently, we introduced innovative technical assistance to provide tailored practical training to social enterprise financial intermediaries. These services were only launched a year ago, but we see a lot of interest from the less developed markets in Central and Eastern Europe. So many of the tailored trainings provided so far have been to intermediaries from this region. And then if perhaps we move on the slides. Thank you. So we have some significant results to show regarding the work on access to finance. So this is just a snapshot. So regarding our financial instruments, the repayable finance side, if we look at our guarantee instrument, the Easy Guarantee as it's called, since it was launched 5 years ago, some 130 guarantee deals have been signed across Europe with financial intermediaries in the field of both microfinance and social enterprises. We estimate that every euro of EU support from the guarantee instrument leverages 11 euros of financing for microenterprises and social enterprises by bringing public and private money together. And the above deals alone are expected to mobilize more than 3 billion euros in financing in total, out of which almost 1 billion euros for social enterprises. Now, beyond these numbers, in my view, there are also important intangible but real benefits of an EU instrument. So, for example, these instruments are delivered through the European Investment Fund, and the intermediaries have to engage intensely with the EIF, and that ensures high standards. And in my view, this contributes to the faster professionalization of market players and the faster spreading of expertise across Europe, as opposed to a situation where we just tried to create our own instruments without any cross-fertilization. Regarding our grant support, so now we're closing our third call for proposals to improve the supply and demand side of social finance markets at the national level. And in total, we'll have awarded 53 projects across Europe. 16 funds will have benefited from our transaction cost grant support. And some 20 organizations have already benefited from the technical assistance just in this past year. Very briefly, looking ahead regarding our funding instruments for the next financial period for the EU, we have 7-year financial periods, and the next one begins next year. So the idea is very much to build on what we started now and to consolidate it, because we've achieved a great deal, but it's not enough. We know some of the markets are underdeveloped, and this is a long-term process. So we think we need to essentially consolidate and carry on building what we started. So now, to conclude, because my time is running out, I hope in this short time I've given you a bit of a snapshot, a bit of an insight in some of the ways how we've tried at EU level to create better enabling frameworks for social business across Europe. We are actually doing a great deal more in this area, and as the social economy and social enterprises are present in many economic sectors, it's actually a very transversal field, as many of you will know, and therefore we work very closely with other Commission departments, including our colleagues in DG GROW, which is the Commission department which deals with enterprise policy more generally. Looking back, though, I think we can honestly say that compared to 2011, the landscape for social enterprises in Europe in 2020 is significantly altered and, I believe, improved. And I think overall it's clear that EU-level support has helped to inspire these changes and has sent a powerful signalling effect to the national level that these areas are worthy of support. But we do recognise that the situation across Europe is uneven and much more needs to be done, which is why we're adopting an action plan on social economy next year and why we wish to continue our funding support under our next generation programmes. And against the backdrop of the need for the green and digital transitions and for the economic recovery to be just and fair, social enterprise really has a crucial role to play in delivering this transition and seizing the opportunity presented by this crisis to build a more sustainable and better world. Now, it does so with the participation and stakeholder engagement as part of its essential DNA. So at the Commission, we're engaging in deep discussions with stakeholders as we move forward in preparing our action plan for next year. So I think we've accomplished a lot together in the last years, and we hope to accomplish much more together in the coming years. So thank you.
And thank you so much on providing this overview, mentioning the Better Entrepreneurship Policy Toolkit developed with OECD, but also sharing with us a little bit more insight on what's in the EASY toolbox on policy and the EASY guarantee operations. So now we'll go on to the next panelist, François Bonici, head of the SWAP Foundation for Social Entrepreneurship. It's a sister organization of the World Economic Forum. And François, you're actually a physician, professor, and a former founding director of the Bertha Center for Social Innovation and Entrepreneurship in the University of Cape Town, South Africa. Actually the first academic center dedicated to social innovation in Africa. And your experience spans over 2 decades of working across multiple systems, sectors, and skills. And I believe I've gotten to know you these past months as being very passionate about cross-sector partnerships, especially, of course, for social enterprise, and being able to mobilize all types of stakeholders in this field around the globe. The SWAP Foundation is the co-initiator of the COVID Response Alliance for Social Enterprise, as mentioned, an alliance of 60 organizations that are working together in the wake or during the COVID-19 crisis. The floor is yours, Francois.
Thank you so much, Suzanne, and thank you for the overkind introduction. Despite all of that, I still don't have as nice a background as all of you, but delighted to be here. Thank you to Smart Collective, and I think it's an important moment also for me to listen and learn what's happening in Central and Eastern Europe. So I appreciate being here, and then special greetings to Anne and all of the work you've been doing. The European Commission, really important to listen to it again and hear over the years and over the decade how important that is, not only for Europe but actually for the rest of the world that looks to Europe for the development of policies and financing mechanisms. And then thank you to Neven. So to all of the people listening in today, appreciate everyone's time. The whole world has moved virtual, and yet so much of the important work still happens on the ground and face to face. And I think I want to start by recognizing, while we're talking, I think quite a lot at a macro level in this opening, we do so in order to support the work on the ground. Having worked for much of my career on the front lines, recognizing that often happens without recognition, acknowledgement, support. And that's, I think, why everyone is here and why these exist. And so also to recognize the work of the intermediaries and the peer networks as part of this, before I even start talking about what's happening at the World Economic Forum and the SWAP Foundation. So I want to start and acknowledge all of that work and to really encourage everyone here. I think everyone is here because in some way they are deeply committed and working in the social economy, or very interested in doing so. And so, as a group of people who are already convinced, what do we need to do to get, as your question, Suzanne, to us was, how do we get social enterprises to the core of our economic recovery? It's to do all of this work, but to do it together. I think the one thing I've learned about systems, quote unquote, and the way we've structured our economic systems is that they are not just, and they are not fair, and they are exclusive. And systems don't change on their own. And so we need collective power, and this is why the only way we can do that is together. So with the platform that I now have, and grateful to stand in the position as a director of the SWAP Foundation, a quick bit of history, and then what do we do together? And so a quick bit of history: the SWAP Foundation has for more than 20 years been recognizing through an awards process, but by building a community of the world's leading, well-established social entrepreneurs. And why did it do that? It did that to create role models, but also because it had the platform of the World Economic Forum. And I think, particularly in its first decade, contributed to the mainstreaming of the idea and the understanding of what social entrepreneurship even was. But I think over the last couple of years, to some degree, and this is certainly true outside of Europe, we've left the building of that ecosystem to many social entrepreneurs alone, or at least parts of it with large gaps not being filled. And so while we see a maturing of the sector, we definitely recognize that we need other actors on board to be part of this, if this is really to become part of the economic recovery. So delighted again to hear of Anne's work and how that really connects through, and also of this 2021 agenda, which Anne would love to reconnect on. Part of what the SWAP Foundation started doing last year was to recognize we need leaders in all sectors, and so actually Anne became part of one of our inaugural awardees of public sector social innovators, and also recognizing corporate social innovators. So we really need the instruments and the assets and the leverage of those institutions to help build the social and solidarity economy. And then in the time of COVID, recognizing, like all of you have, and I don't need to necessarily repeat the challenges that social enterprises and the communities and the issues that they work with and work on face during the COVID pandemic, even more reason now for us to be able to try and use the platform of the World Economic Forum, which is a platform of influence more than anything. And it's not an agenda setting, it's not the United Nations, but it is the gathering of public and private leaders. It is an international organization for public-private cooperation. So how do we use that platform in order to enable and mobilize new actors and to actually set the narrative that when Anne and others come to the table and say this is necessary, that that over time that narrative has started to sink in, and that we've got new actors at the table that we need. And so the COVID Response Alliance was really a starting point during the months of April and May to recognize that there were responses to the needs of social entrepreneurs. However, this was very fragmented. It was quite difficult for social entrepreneurs to actually understand where to find support. There were lots of surveys going out trying to understand what the needs were. Again, that was a burden on social entrepreneurs. There were huge gaps in the kinds of resources available, some capital, some non-financial support, and the alliance was really created in a very short period of time, now over 60 global organizations, to try and amplify, coordinate, and mobilize new resources for social entrepreneurs during this time. What we've built in the meantime, I think, is now a really interesting set of actors that is now also being attractive to new companies, and particularly for the World Economic Forum, with its membership of some of the largest companies in the world, having SAP build into its Ariba platform, which is its large B2B procurement platform, which sees, I don't know the volume, but I think it is several $1 trillion worth of procurement each year, a special filter to highlight and promote procurement from social enterprises. So these kinds of things are starting in some of the members of the Alliance. Salesforce similarly offering support, and then some of the larger companies, Johnson & Johnson, IKEA, Microsoft, Unilever, all starting to recognize, okay, this is an important piece of the economy. Is that necessarily going to build the social economy on its own? No. Is it important as part of this agenda? Yes. And so, with what we have built, have now, just last week, Suzanne contributed to this, released an action agenda for the coming 12 to 18 months. We recognize that the impact of COVID, both its health, but also, of course, its economic impact, will be significant for at least the 2 years ahead. And that the gains that we've made in advancing and supporting social enterprise, if we want them to be part of the recovery, as Suzanne, you've asked, they need to sustain and survive this period as well. And so this is around the world, of course. And so this action agenda starts to point out and demonstrate from 154 different contributors what are 25 concrete areas of action that we can work on together. And our job now as the foundation and as the forum is to take this agenda to new actors more than anything. I think those that are already on board are working on it, they're making their commitments, they're doubling down, they're expanding their efforts. But we recognize even with that, it's probably not enough. But also now is our opportunity to build this collective voice that I've been wanting to emphasize, to take that to the halls of power and where influences and decisions are made, but also actively bring voices of social entrepreneurs to be represented in those forums in the ways that others have done. So I don't want to labor on too long because I know we also want time for Q&A, but at least at a high level to express my support and interests in the CEE region. Exciting to hear, just look through the program and see what is lined up. I'm hoping I might be able to dial into to hear some of the pitches later on. Of course, part of the World Economic Forum's interest and agenda is also in the kind of fourth industrial revolution. And I think what's important from our perspective is that the technological revolution is also one that is a human and a sustainable one. And to do that, we need this sector that you're all building in Central and Eastern Europe to be extremely strong. So I just want to offer my support and thanks for being here, and looking forward to the question session. Thank you, Suzanne.
Thank you, Francois, for the introduction and also providing us with some more information on the action plan and what the horizon would look like. And indeed, you mentioned that one voice, one common mission is very important in this sense, and we'll talk a little bit about that later. Next up is Neven Marinovic. As you all know, social entrepreneur, co-founder, executive director of Smart Collective. Smart Collective is the leading Serbian organization in CSR and social enterprise. I also know Neven as the ambassador for the CE region for social enterprise, been working a long time in the field. And I think most of the audience knows him as being very serious about, indeed, as you mentioned in the opening session, showing all the positive developments that are happening and how the regions in the CE region can connect to the rest of Europe and also therefore the rest of the world. Neven, the floor is yours. Please go ahead.
Thanks, Suzanne, and thank you all for again for taking part in this event, Francois, and very valuable contributions. And I'm very glad to see that both of you personally and your respective institutions are in a way looking into the region and interested into finding ways of how it can be supported more, because I don't think it's always about support as such. I think, and I truly believe it's about, building the ecosystem, as I think both of you mentioned. And I think, what, in a way, what we see as a needed, I would say, precondition for mainstreaming social businesses and for mainstreaming social or impact economy or whatever we want to call it, is basically, to have a consensus and to have a sort of a good network and I would say good collaboration among all of the key actors. What we are facing here in the region, I think, I really hate these specifics like, we are very specific, this will never work here, we need, special conditions. But I think, there are definitely some differences among regions, and the region itself is very diverse. You have very small economies, such as Serbia or the Balkan countries. You have very large economies, if you look at Poland, and some big markets, So I think, the region itself is very diverse, but, what is common in a way is that due to its, I would say, maybe a socialist past, it's in a way the entrepreneurship scene itself has took a little bit longer to kind of, jumpstart. And even, I would say, classic entrepreneurship is not very much regarded and not very much, I wouldn't say popular, but, it's still, hasn't took the pace as it has, I would say, in some other countries. Given that fact, even, social economy and social entrepreneurship is still, I would say, taking time to promote itself and to showcase itself as a legitimate, I would say, both legitimate career and as a legitimate way of tackling some of the issues. I think what we see in the region. I started with some specifics, but some of the commonalities is that working with social businesses and with other institutions, with classic businesses, with with other partners. I think top three key things that we see is that our money, our knowledge, and some technical support, and at the end of the day, access to market. But by access to market, I also mean raising awareness or access to some of the supply chains or access to some of the, let's say, public procurement and things like this. So I think, these are the three common things that we see with, enterprises, big and small, in different countries. And this is actually where we focused our work, seeing that, we cannot work by, providing one size fits all and saying, well, okay, this is what we provide and this is what we do. And, so, you need to kind of adjust in a way to get that support. we have done a lot of different things during the years, but what we have seen is that if we really want to see this sector growing, we really need to take them by the hand, and we really need to support them, and we really need to kind of tailor the support, be it financial support, sometimes that's not the primary thing, be it technical support, but you really need to work with these guys. And I think this is where we come to some kind of maybe the lack of complementarity when we talk about the other part of Europe, because I think if you speak with even social investors, financial institutions, or even some other support organizations, I think the questions that come in place would be scalability, would be I would say tickets of, let's say, 200,000, 250,000 and higher. If we spoke about investors, it would be about well, can this business be scaled into 50 more cities or 10 more countries, or how cool, innovative, and never seen before is that idea. I think we have created tremendous problems through, let's say, classic economy and the kind of the classic way of doing things, and now we would like social enterprises to solve all these problems. Well, is it going to clean all the plastics from the ocean? No, it's not. I'm sorry. Or is it going to end pollution of air? I think we need to come to go away. I would say step back, and to see that these enterprises, however small, make a positive change. And that we need to cherish them for that, and we need to, if we really want to change the way that the economy and society works, we need to support them in doing that and show them that they are actually valuable. If they employ 5 people with disabilities, if they make a small positive impact on the environment, they need to be supported. They should not be punished because they're not scalable fast enough. They should not be punished because they cannot accept huge investment all of a sudden, and because they're not what we call investment ready. So I think this is a crucial role of partners that we have today at the conference, of you guys, other financial institutions, of the political level, to understand that we need to create people working here in the region need to create mechanisms such as the impact fund that we are creating, that is actually a great link between what is happening in some other Western European countries and what is happening here. Because if we leave these enterprises on their own, I think they would probably not be able to develop themselves. They would they would not shut down, but they would not be able to cherish and flourish and develop in the way that we wanted, and they will not be, how to put it, compatible with what is already created as European social business or social finance ecosystem. So I think we need to kind of put a little more effort into basically developing the market, so that things are being so that the markets can be compatible in that way. I think what is needed for that also is a political action, and I'm really glad to see that. I know that already, that European Commission, especially the unit that Anne represents, is really doing a lot. What I think we like here in the region, when I'm speaking only about the region which is not a part of the EU, because some of the Central Eastern European countries are, have joined the EU some time ago, but there is still the Western Balkans countries which is not a part of the EU. So the main European policy agenda that influences us is the accession agenda, and unfortunately sometimes these two agendas are not adjusted, because the accession agenda would be more focused on rule of law and other things, and would not work on building the social economy or sustainable business at all. So I think this is where we need your support to kind of also mainstream what the great work you're already doing in European member countries, and how we can actually learn from that and do it in the non-European non-member countries, because I think the proximity of the EU makes us in a way too close for us to be not to be influenced by European Union, but the lack of membership makes us sometimes too far away kind of to work with the European institutions on a regular basis. And I think also what we have seen is the role of traditional business is very important. So, we work a lot with traditional, well, let's say mainstream business here, and trying to explain to them why is it important for them to support social businesses in many different ways, and why is it important then for them to integrate them into their supply chain. And we sometimes see that this is much bigger, I would say, difference and much bigger impact on social businesses than providing them with some money or grants or whatever. And last but not least, I think what we are seeing is that social economy or social business, whatever we want to call it, is a very, I would say, common sense thing. It's basically the right way to do business. So what we are seeing a lot is that, and where we are looking into is, there is a lot of SME companies, Serbian-owned, local companies, very active in the local communities, that wouldn't call themselves a million-year social businesses. They would do a lot of tremendous things, have a huge positive impact, but nobody has ever, talked to them or treated them as a social business, and they just do it, because they think it's the right thing to do. So what we see is that this is a huge potential, to support these companies to basically, to mainstream their positive social impact, and to kind of, to provide them with funding, with some other tools, and with some other technical skills, because I think they would be even, better candidates for, faster growth and for scalability. And, they basically just don't know, the term, don't know, that there the whole world out there of actors such as all of us are providing support. So I think, the keywords for me would be about, working locally and networking globally, at least on a European level. That is, from my experience, is the best way. But building structures locally that actually fit the needs of the local markets.
Thank you, Nevin. And that's a really good conclusion, working locally and networking on a European level. Right now, I'm going to open the Q&A. So that means that viewers can type in their questions on YouTube or Facebook. Then magic happens and it comes in my screen. So please go ahead and fill out your questions on those two channels, either the YouTube channel or the Facebook channel, if you're on any of those two. I want to kick off with the first question. And that's a question for Anne, because Nevin just mentioned that indeed, some of the regions, they're not in the EU. And you also shortly touched upon the geographical activities in your presentation. But how can the CE region and then the neighboring countries to the EU, how can they benefit from, more specifically, from the instruments?
Well, there are instruments already for the neighborhood, as Nevin mentioned. So those are important. When it comes to some of the Western Balkan and neighborhood countries, some are part of the EASY program right now. And the intention is to continue that. So, for example, we've been able to give grants to some of the players in beyond the EU countries, if the countries have signed these kind of partnership agreements with the EU. And indeed, a smart collective has benefited from that. And some of the technical assistance as well. So we can help with those things. Of course, the financial instruments are open to Central and Eastern Europe, and a few of the also beyond those Western Balkan countries that have signed agreements. And then move into the future. So, well, okay, there's also the international program, like I said, from NEAR. And then in the same way as our funding programs are being renewed, in the same way, we hope that this kind of support will continue to be available to them in the future. I would say that what we see, we've really seen in the last 5 years, the growing interest in the whole international dimension, and within the Commission services. So, for example, our colleagues in DG NEAR or DevCo, who are interested in our learnings from within the EU and our experience of financial instruments and other types of support, and to see how they can learn from them in terms of the international instruments we have. And that's, I think, a very important trend. So, because if something's useful to job creation and social inclusion and sustainable development within the EU, then we're happy if we can share that learning either through our policy and evidence base or through what we've learned about funding support.
Very clear, thank you, Anne. And also on that note, the next question is for François. Are there any plans to work with the Global Action Plan and implement activities on a regional level, for instance, the CE region?
Thanks for the question, Suzanne. There are chapters that are emerging and conversations that we're supporting that want to take the action agenda further. For example, that's kicked off now in Latin America, and there's some discussions in the Africa region. That's driven by local partners. And I think the whole point of having an action agenda published by the World Economic Forum is to, again, raise legitimacy so that the actors here who want to take the political advocacy, take it forward, use that support. And so we're here to support that. You know, if it's Nevin and Smart Collective, if it's a coalition of others wanting to mobilize or are already mobilizing in the region, the invitation is to use us and, you know, the impetus that comes with the brand to do that if you think it's going to be helpful, but also to take the action agenda and say, okay, well, that makes sense, but you know, in our region, we have these specific priorities. So we would like to hear that and happy to facilitate the connections to the team working on the alliance on the regional basis.
Thank you, François. Next question for Nevin is what would you advise the social businesses and intermediaries in the CE region to get connected even more and to get organized even more into the initiatives that are happening in the EU and on a global level?
I think that is a huge opportunity for social businesses, and unfortunately an untapped one, you know. And I think, you know, the point is that sometimes, you know, EU with all its programs and DGs and, you know, can be a bit intimidating for, you know, a small social business somewhere to, you know, understand the complexity of it and, you know, all the programs and, you know, is this Erasmus, is this something for me or not, or how do I apply? And so I think, you know, that's also that is also, I think, the role of organizations such as Euclid and such as ours, you know, to kind of be there on the ground through its members or directly to organize different, I would say, interactions, you know, be it exchanges, be it, you know, some other things. But I think, you know, even the internal market for social businesses is very, I would say, untapped as a potential resource. I'm telling you from our personal experience. So what happens every time we organize, like, for example, we had the first generation of our of businesses that are in our, you know, investment ready program. That's just a fancy word for, you know, program where we provide them with support and funding at the end of the day. But basically, every time we get a group of them, you know, they connect between each other. They see opportunities that, you know, one can source something from that, and they can share maybe, I don't know, like a distributor for something. So I think, you know, creating an internal market of, you know, services and cooperation for social businesses is, I mean, of course, it's much easier said than done, but I think definitely there is an opportunity in that. And I think we need to work much more to provide them with those links and to, you know, to connect them together, because I think the willingness is there, the need is definitely there. And I think sometimes this can be a fast track for their access to a certain market, for sometimes for an access to, you know, to a certain, I would say, you know, maybe a supply chain of some of the companies. So I think definitely that's a, you know, a great idea.
Good, thank you, Nevin. We have reached the end of our session already, and before we end this webinar, I would like to say, of course, thank you to all panelists. Thank you, Anne. Thank you, François. Thank you, Nevin. I think, you know, concluding that in order to truly boost the social business ecosystem in the CE region, we need to find a way to link the what you mentioned, Nevin, is what, you know, what is very specific to the region access to market, what type of technical support, custom made, to link that in somehow to what's happening on a European level, and also what's happening on an international level. I would like to invite you all to go to the next sessions. I think we'll get more specifics on that. Thank you again, and now on to the next. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Good luck with the conference.
Okay, thank you, Suzanne, and thanks once again to the guests and speakers on the first session. Now it's time for the second session of the day, but I would like to maybe invite everyone for a 3 minutes break, just if somebody wants to, stretch legs, and yeah, let's meet back here in like 3 minutes. Okay, thank you all. Hi everyone, we are back. It's time for Inspire session of the day, or how to start an impact fund in CEE. We had a great first session where we actually discussed a lot on how important it is to build further the ecosystem for social economy in the CEE region, and how to develop market for social investment, but both for social enterprises. And one of the key issues that we usually discuss is the issue of access to finance. And especially the problem is of finding the tailored finance for social enterprises in their different stages of development. So we want to discuss here one of the problems which is usually discussed, and that there is, according to the research that the EPA has done, less than 10% of the whole impact investing money is coming to the CEE region, and we want to discuss why this is happening. But moreover, we want to discuss with those that have started the first social investment funds or impact funds in the CEE region, what was their experience and their way. Some of the key challenges were already mentioned during the first session, and those are usually access to tailored capital, also to adequate support, also some other like access to market, like different supply chains or public procurement. So there is much that can be done. But there were some pioneering already funds in the region that have developed the social finance instruments and funds. And I'm delighted to moderate this session today, which is getting a very strong female panel of impact investors or social investors in the CEE region. So I would like to invite as a first speaker, Amra. Amra Meragic is the Senior Finance Investment Officer in Finance in Motion. And as you have also heard in the opening ceremony, Finance in Motion is a leader in the region in supporting development of other impact and social investment funds, not only in Serbia, but in the Western Balkans. And they have been also strong supporter of smart quality and development of our finance facility. Hi, Amra.
Hi, Anna. Yes.
Hi, welcome. So I would like to give you a floor now to present a bit what the EFSA Fund and Finance in Motion are doing in the region, and what was your brief history working in the Western Balkans region. So please take the floor. Can you share the presentation, or I should do it for you?
Yes. Thank you, Ivana, for the background and the introduction. Like you said, I'm from Finance in Motion, and we are managing funds with impact. So today I'd like to give you a bit of an introduction to our European Fund for Southeast Europe, or EFSA. And I have prepared a short presentation, which I will now share with you. Can you see it?
Yes, we have it. Thank you.
Okay, so today I want to talk about the two stories to our fund. I will give a bit of a background and evolution of the European Fund for Southeast Europe, and on the other hand, I also want to talk a little bit about the support that we offer to building the entrepreneurial ecosystems in the region that the fund operates in. So these are the two stories. So firstly, about EFSA, European Fund for Southeast Europe, aims to foster economic development and prosperity in Southeast Europe and European Eastern neighborhood through sustainable provision of additional development finance, which means the fund provides three types of loans. This is firstly rural loans for rural development, also micro and small enterprises loans for development of small businesses, and thirdly the housing loans. Through provision of access to finance and through a focus on these three areas, we also focus on the following SDGs. The fund operates in 16 countries, as you can see here on the map. We have offices, Finance in Motion offices in 10 of these countries. And this is how the fund is set up. So basically, it is a public-private partnership with these organizations. So as you can see here on the left-hand side, we have donor agencies such as EU, such as governments of some Western European countries. In the middle, we also have international financial institutions supporting the fund. So this is institutions such as European Investment Bank, KfW, FMO, IFC, EBRD. And on the left-hand side, we also have private investors, and this is mainly some commercial banks. The history of the fund. So the fund was initiated in 2005, and it's actually made up of 4 little funds that were actually in this region. So the European Fund for Bosnia and Herzegovina, which was developed right after the war, also fund for Kosovo, Montenegro, and Serbia. They are actually merged into one big fund, which is now called EFSE Fund, which has been operating for 15 years. This is just for your information, the flow of funds, how the fund works. So basically, donors and investors put the money in, which is then on lent to private lending institutions, such as bank and microfinance institutions. And this money, of course, goes to finance micro and small enterprises and private households. On the other side, we also have donors who are sponsoring our EFSE development facility. And this is our technical assistance facility, which we use to sponsor and to support business support organizations, entrepreneurship, building entrepreneurial ecosystem, which I will talk a little bit about on the next slides. So the financing instruments that we use for EFSE Fund, this is mainly senior loans, but we also can provide subordinated debt, guarantees, hybrid capital, equity, and local currency loans. Currently, we are working with 67 partner lending institutions, and this is mainly local commercial banks, microfinance banks, microcredit organizations, and also companies such as leasing companies or non-bank financial institutions. This is the evolution of the fund since 2006. The fund has now reached a portfolio of 935 million euros and working with 67 institutions. Along with the fund, we also have a, like I said, EFSE development facility with a total project volume so far of around 30 million euros, and we have supported around 500 projects through this facility. So how it actually works, we are supporting projects which are either our partner lending institutions or institutions supporting entrepreneurship in the region. One of our main initiatives that we are especially proud of, and the one we are working through to support entrepreneurial ecosystem, is actually EFSE Entrepreneurship Academy. And EFSE Entrepreneurship Academy has the objective to strengthen and enable the ecosystem for entrepreneurship in the region. We are working with incubators, accelerators, VC funds, and equity vehicles, business angels to support the ecosystem building. We are working in capacity building of local and regional partners. That's quite important. And also we are supporting scalable businesses in the different stages of business development. In particular, we're very fond of social entrepreneurship support, as I said. And this is here a list of all the partners that we are supporting through EFSE Entrepreneurship Academy, and the list is growing every day. So basically, this is in the nutshell, EFSE Fund and EFSE Entrepreneurship Academy. I'm also here to answer any questions that you might have.
Thank you so much, Anna. If it's okay, I will now move to other presenters, and then we can leave some time at the end for the Q&A. I definitely have some additional questions for you and the work that you are doing in the region.
Sure.
Okay, thank you. I would like now to use the opportunity to invite Pirko from Vlade Foundation. I actually had the pleasure to be the part of the study visit like 2 years ago when we visited the Vlade Foundation in Estonia and learned how they have set up their first venture philanthropy fund, and have learned a lot from their experience back then. So I'm curious to hear actually from Pirko where they're standing today and how the fund is progressing. So hi, Pirko.
Hi.
Thank you for joining us. Good to see you again.
You too.
So, how is it in Estonia?
Good. It's actually warm here. Usually it's snowing, but now it's pretty nice currently. I will try to share my screen as well. I have only one slide.
Okay, just use the Windows applications and play from there.
Oh, so it's more complicated than I thought.
You can share it with me if you want via emails, and I can share it while you are starting to speak.
Okay. Just hello from me as well. I'm from Vlade Foundation in Estonia. We are a foundation that has been running with private donors' help, and we are more than 15 years old. So our aim is to start and grow impactful initiatives, and we have been for the first 15 years. We were co-founders of many societal initiatives dealing in education, in environment. So we have set up a number of programs in Estonia, and we didn't have any funds to direct towards these financial funds. So we were more active in non-financial support, and this is what we did for the first 15 years. And then 3 years ago, we started an incubator for social startups, for social innovation, and we have had over 400 ideas coming in, and around 40 ideas come out of the incubator who have actually then started working in Estonia mostly. And we saw from our own previous work when we were like founding these different initiatives how difficult it is to get funding, especially from the private sector, like in terms of like philanthropy. And we decided that we will, since these philanthropic funds were not present in Estonia, we needed to create our own fund. So the first one Ivana mentioned was the Impact Fund. And it's a 3-year fund. We gathered €500,000 from Estonian high net worth individuals. Behind there is about 16 investors. So they made a 3-year commitment to support the fund. And what we promised in return was that we will support up to 6 initiatives over a 3-year period. So this is what we have been doing in the past 2.5 years. So our first fund is about to finish. And from the fund, we mostly give out grants in this first 3 years. But now in the 3-year period, we have also noticed that there are already some of the social initiatives starting have actually a very strong business model. They are set up as for-profit initiatives, and we are now actually fundraising for the second impact fund. And there we also see that we want to allow equity investments as well alongside with the grants. We won't lose the focus on impact and on measuring impact and increasing impact, but just that as the landscape is becoming more diverse, we want to be able to fully take part of these developments. And in this after the impact fund, actually half a year later, we were very lucky to start our second fund, which is already 1 million euros, and that is dedicated solely on education solutions. So the Good Deed Education Fund was born, and with 35 investors, mostly from startup founders community. So we have like a world famous startups like Skype and TransferWise and Bolt or Taxify sort of come out of Estonia, and the founders of these startups, which now are unicorns, decided to give back to the Estonian society. And since we already had a working sort of structure how to set up an impactful venture philanthropy fund, then we co-created a second one so closely after the first impact fund. And from there we already have done some around 7 investments, out of which we also have done our first equity deal. So so our approach was maybe a little bit different than previously discussed. So our focus is on high net worth individuals and raising money from this target group. So it's mostly actually it's very, very private money, and it also gives a lot of freedom to us, because they support the approach we have taken, and there is almost so there is regular reporting to the investors, but it's basically reporting we have designed ourselves. So it's a great way, I would say, for self-innovation and for testing out a new model. So that is like a short overview from me. So looking forward to hearing what other approaches we have in CE, and hopefully discuss later your questions as well.
Yes, thank you so much. Well, we would all probably like to have as many unicorns as you have in Estonia. We unfortunately don't have such a large startup scene, but it is developing, and let's hope that we will also have soon some unicorns that can potentially be the investors in our next fund. But yes, we would definitely like to hear later in discussion more about the reason behind why it was so hard to get the first investors for the first fund. But let's keep it for discussion. Now I would like to invite Sanja Živković from Impact Foundation from Croatia. We have been working together with ACT Group and Impact Foundation shoulder to shoulder on pioneering this sort of social investments and social finance instruments here in this region. And hi Sanja, it's nice to see you, even this online form.
Hello everyone. It's nice to be here, and we are quite happy that we have opportunity to present Impact Foundation, although we are quite young and recently established, and it could say that we are actually in the same phase of our existence. So as Ivana mentioned, we were established end of 2015 by ACT Group with a goal to complete the circle in building an impact economy ecosystem. And because from one side, ACT Group is building impact entrepreneurship ecosystem, while the vision of Impact Foundation and the role is to enhance impact investment ecosystem. So it took us almost the entire 2019 to obtain all legal approvals. And when we were thinking how we will proceed and what will be the best legal option for developing financial instruments, the foundation was actually the most appropriate form, because in Croatia, foundations can give loans, invest in equity, and also provide hybrid financial instruments. We always like to start the presentation of co-impact actually with our vision, and our vision is that compassion, collaboration, and co-investment connected will positively impact society and environment. So we really have strong value-based approach, and we are basing our model on partnerships. So when actually approach is more value-based than interest-based, it takes much longer time actually to start with activities. And one of our specific is that we are not solely focused on just like providing finance or impact investment. We have 3 pillars of engagement. And actually financing or tailored financing is only one of them, or only can be considered as a tool for developing impact investment ecosystem. So the first is international cooperation, and the second is impact-oriented education. So actually like answering how to start a fund in CE, our path was that actually we started with mobilizing our networks, not only in Croatia, but also, and not only in CE region, but also globally. So we became first member of European Venture Philanthropy Association in Croatia, and we are currently in the process of becoming UN Global Compact members, which is the key organization globally related to sustainable development goals. Also, our plan is, so we started the initiative of establishing National Advisory Board within Global Steering Group for Impact Investors, which could be actually the first, Croatia could be the first country in CE region that would have representative in such a global organization specifically focused on impact investment. With regards to impact education, we are quite active in awareness raising activities, and also providing like webinar education and lectures related to SDGs, impact investment, venture philanthropy, and especially related to impact leadership, because it has been proven that like hard skills or hard knowledge sometimes are not enough, and there are many enterprises actually that are doing impact, but that they are not aware that what they are doing can be considered as impact entrepreneurship. So we really focus a lot of our time and energy in this awareness raising activities. Our founders, so after we mobilized our networks, we mobilized expertise that we have in-house in ACT Group, but also we established some strategic partnerships with international organizations and also other impact investors, because we plan to focus on, with regard to financing, to microloans, which will be actually learning by doing for entrepreneurs, and actually preparing pipeline for other bigger investors, which now have problem with the pipeline of investment ready enterprises. And what is quite important for us, that we try to be in the field as much as possible. And we were when you know preparing our strategy where to focus. First, we wanted our plan was to be really generalist, but then we realized that it would be a problem to attract philanthropic capital, which we could then pilot for impact investment. And then this COVID crisis showed really importance of food production and agriculture. And also we realized that most of the SDGs are somehow related to agriculture. So our pilot phase will be focused on financing agriculture and food production. And we also have a big wish to start with supporting agricultural producers and farmers on Croatian islands. From focus coming to even more narrow focus. So we just started, as I said, now active in international cooperation and education activities, and starting to fundraise for our first sustainable agriculture program in Croatia and the region.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Good to hear the update. I'm happy to hear how it's further evolving. And yes, I can definitely relate on how hard it was again to find first partners on board, and that international community and those that are already active in the field of impact investing might be the first partners to approach to, because we still need to work a lot on raising awareness and educating the impact investor community here in this region. But yes, that's the further question for discussion too. Thank you so much, Sanja. One last speaker and presenter, and then we are joining for the panel and the discussion. I would like now to invite Elica Barakova, Director of Because Foundation, a YouTube member that also recently started developing their impact investment instruments. And yes, please, the floor is yours. Tell us what you are doing at the moment and where you stand at with your fund.
Yes, well, thank you, Ivana. Maybe I should call myself Jelica for the purpose of your conference right now. Very happy to be with you even online. Because Foundation, the Bulgarian organization, is a donor organization. We started nearly 25 years ago, and what we do is get money out of donors and give it to non-profit organizations, schools, chitališta, hospitals, and such. With years, we developed an understanding about the limitations which philanthropy has to create long-lasting social impact. So, for example, we started not to give grants to NGOs to do what they want to do, but we gave them grants and facilitated their training and capacity building in order to be able to raise more funds. So we somehow focused on development issues, organizational capacity, rather than becoming a really important, becoming really big donor on the landscape of Bulgaria. But we have really very focused on local indigenous donors, both companies and individuals. And for these 25 years, we were able now to raise about 2.5 million per year in leva, divided into two for euros. So it will be million and to 300,000 for in euros annually. This is local donations which we raised through regular projects like payroll giving. We work with companies. We have a big partnership project facilitating SMS giving with the Bulgarian Donors Forum. So all these instruments combined, online giving more and more, result in these funds. And in these amounts, the funds which we were able to raise and direct them to entrepreneurs, to people who want to become entrepreneurs, social entrepreneurs, or small businesses that want to do business, family businesses who want to do business in rural areas, in smaller establishments, where every such economic endeavor is vitally needed in order to preserve the local population, the local school, healthcare system, and generally preserve the village or the small town. So we started in 2014 with some financial assistance from our partner organization in America, CAF America. We were able to build a program and the whole entrepreneurship arm of Because Foundations, which we called the Rinker Center for Entrepreneurship. So the Rinker Center was started with donated money, a bequest of a Bulgarian American woman who lived, who was born in Bulgaria and then immigrant, and donated or left her her money and her estate to the Bulgarian country back to support the spirit of education and development. So with some of this money, we were able to start the Rinker Center, and we named the fund after her. Her name was Helena Rinker Ashley. So we named the fund after her, and since then, this initial 2014 year, we were able also to attract some substantial funding from 2 local banks, for which we did accelerate a program within the fields of their interest, and 2 other companies we were able to help them with. At the moment, we have a very good program developed for accelerator program, and we believe that combining on competitive grounds an approach that combines both training and mentoring support and financial small startup initial funding is the best when we talk for early stage ideas. When we talk about ideas that are really in the beginning, small businesses or social entrepreneurs in their first 1-3 years. That's the approach we developed. At the moment, we're kind of moving to more enlarging our reach. We work with some other partners to develop a better investment readiness program. We started with a good scoping exercise with social entrepreneurs and small businesses in the country who believe they want to grow up, to scale up with additional investment. We developed a very good self-assessment tool for that. And we also actually, at the moment, we think about staying as where we are in early development stage, but we also continue to develop links, as it was mentioned for Croatia, to develop links with investment from the higher tiers. We have in Bulgaria a few funds who and a venture philanthropy a venture association, venture capital association, which associates them. So we are working with them to actually draw their interest to social impact investment. We speak what social impact is investing in a medical company, which is cutting edge medicine, high, very expensive. Is this actually a social impact? Where is how to measure it? And we believe that there is a lot of desire among the investors to put a brand social investor to themselves. So they're interested how to do that, but also they're interested how to preserve their profitability and sustainability. So this is an area where we think we have enough knowledge to work with them, and in that way we will be able to influence much more money than the fund we are having or possibly will have in close future. So this is our lessons: work closely with the mostly needed entrepreneurs, and work with the big guys, the big funds, to get their attention and draw their attention to the needs of the same entrepreneurs. And it's working.
Thank you. Thank you so much. Thanks everyone for presentations. I would like to join now. To invite everyone now to join us into the panel, all the speakers, and to ask our technicians to put everyone back to join me here. Meanwhile, I would like to invite everybody who is watching the conference to send questions via Facebook page or YouTube channel, so that we can also ask some of those questions here in live program. But meanwhile, while we are waiting for these questions, many of you have mentioned this difficulty of getting the funding and different strategies of how you manage to get first partners on board or planning to get first partners on board. And many of you are mentioning international partners, but also some local investors, venture capital startups. So there are different strategies in place, but what we often hear as a problem is the lack of investors in the CEE region, both on the local level, but also lack of interest of international community also to invest in social enterprises in CEE region. So I would like to hear some of you some short explanation maybe, or way of thinking. What's the problem there? Is it the lack of awareness on investor side, or a lack of visibility of CEE social enterprises, or the pipeline is the problem? What do you see as some key challenges? But I would kindly ask for short answers so that we can have more questions. So anyone wants to start first? Nobody's Amra?
Well, yes, I can start. So basically, why there is a lack of investment in the region, I would say, first of all, I think it was Nevin who said the entrepreneurial ecosystem in the region generally is at quite low stage of development. So there is still a lot of room to develop in that sense. And in particular, when it comes to social entrepreneurship, I think there is still a long way to go in that sense. So I think we need better ecosystem development. We need more key stakeholders in the community, and also we need more businesses to showcase. And I think this is what we're doing together with Smart Collective. We're trying to push some good stories out, trying to make some good role models who will stand out and then attract the potential investors. That's from my side.
Yes, what we see, like I would draw the parallel with regular investing in Estonia, since there are a lot of startups and a strong sort of business and entrepreneurial spirit. We have a lot of founders, like angel investors, other sort of funds who take sort of next round. So this world is very developed in Estonia. But so I think it wasn't, our funds are, I guess, the smallest, but it wasn't too difficult to put them together, because we went out and we sort of discussed the same terms as these investors are used to. So we discussed like, instead of profit, we are looking for impact. So we have the incubator, then we have the funds. This is the work we do with this organization. This is our story. We have been here 15 years already. So we have seen this, we have grown together with these organizations. We know what they need sort of when they start. We know what they need after 5 years or after 10 years. So this sort of long history working closely with these social entrepreneurs, we had the credibility to start it. And I think one thing is that we want to be this very strong local impact investor, so that we could have more power to these new ideas coming out of Estonia. And when they are have already proven in Estonia, then for example, they want to take Germany or some other market, then they go and they can showcase what they have done in Estonia and say that, well, now we are expanding. Are you interested in supporting us working in Germany? So sort of the same system when our startups are actually scaling and sort of taking on the world. The first question is, do you have a strong local impact investor who can sort of back up your story? And sort of we also from the Good Deed Foundation, we have been member of European Venture Philanthropy Association almost from the beginning. So we have also this international network. So yeah, this is our sort of approach. It's extremely difficult for local organizations to go out and attract other funding if there is no sort of strong local investor who has already validated their approach and can sort of stand behind them.
Yes, thank you so much, Pirko. I think that EVPA is really gathering a strong community of venture philanthropists, and not only as members we get the opportunity to promote the region, but also to learn more from how to say older peers and from their experience, but also to attract some of the investors here in the region. Yes, Sanja also mentioned the EVPA, they are also the member. So, Sanja, you also wanted to add something on the question, I guess, before Pirko also.
Well, as you mentioned, like, why is not so many impact investors? I believe that always the story starts with lack of awareness, and here is like how high awareness of impact investment as a concept is, and also measurement of related to impact investment. So there is a lot of philanthropic capital, especially in corporations, which is now being allocated through CSR programs, and sometimes they are really dispersing this money through really small random donations, and they are not measuring impact. So they are measuring maybe outputs but not outcomes or impact. So what the role of foundation or co-impact foundation in this case is to actually gather this capital for really concrete and measurable programs, and with recycling focus, because just giving donations, and it has been proven that also backing social entrepreneurship only with grants creates moral hazard and so on. So and in the case of microloans, where repayment rate is around 90%, much larger, greater impact could be achieved. With the same amount of money, a larger number of companies could be supported, and this impact could be measured and long-lasting. So I believe that there is a lot of work to do in this space of raising awareness what impact investment is, how beside financial return, the impact return can be achieved, and how it could be measured. And then if corporations will not establish their own foundations, they should use intermediaries like other foundations and impact funds, which can then do that for them. And then they can receive impact reports and have legacy over that.
Thank you, Sanja. Yeah, I'm completely with you, and I completely agree with you. I think that the role of intermediary organization is also, like all of us, to provide this meaningful and measurable impact, and to build strong cases which have measurable impact, which then can be, how to say, more attractive to investors and more clear what they are supporting. Because we are coming closely to the end, I would like to ask one more question that I've prepared, and we also have one more question coming from media, I guess. But first, we cannot somehow ignore completely the COVID situation, which is happening the last few months. And we have heard also in the first session about the Global COVID Alliance. But I also know that Finance in Motion and the EFSA Fund have done recently a research specifically here for the region. And I would like to hear maybe briefly from Amra, because they have not published yet the results of what are some key findings or what we can do according to research to better support micro and impact businesses here in the region.
Yes, thank you, Ivana. Yes, we have conducted a study in 4 countries, including Serbia, where Smart Collective was implementing the study, but also the study was conducted in Bosnia, Georgia, and Turkey. What are the key results? Well, actually, 4 out of 5 micro and small businesses have indicated that they have been negatively or extremely negatively impacted by the current COVID situation. Mostly affected were sectors in retail and hospitality, of course, and more than half of those businesses said that they have recorded a decrease in revenue by more than 50%. So really severely affected were the businesses, and also some of the businesses also had to lay off their employees, especially in Turkey and Georgia. And what we could do, what we have learned from the study, there's a lot of external support which is needed. So 4 out of 5 businesses actually said that they believe that the business-centered integrated support is needed to kickstart the recovery. So there's a lot of non-financial support that should come in for these businesses to recover.
We have 2 questions. Peter is asking, what should the media do? Thank you for technical support. So Peter is asking, what should the media do from their part to help the development of socially responsible entrepreneurs, so social enterprises and responsible companies, let's say like that. So anybody would like to provide answer to Peter?
Well,
or I yes, Alicia, please.
Hello, what media can do best, actually, tell a story well and invite people to buy, because buying actually buys the long-term existence of these impacts of these enterprises. So tell the stories. We need campaigns about social buying. We need to focus the consumers to buying more responsibly, which they can. We have been witnessing such campaigns everywhere, not just in much wealthier societies, but in our regions too. So we have this desire as consumers to be more compassionate or responsible, or share the success of a good social impact. So that will be. And yes, it is a difficult time and at the moment, and many companies have stopped social enterprises stopped about 50% in Bulgaria. So the ones that strive and work forward have managed to do that because their resilience, because they have excellent teams, very motivated teams, and because of local donations, not because of state support, but because of people helping each other.
Thank you so much. Yes, definitely media has a huge role in promoting these enterprises and raising awareness about how important it is to buy local, buy good, buy social, responsible. And yes, we are inviting media to support this issue. And I think that COVID, at least in Serbia, has influenced a lot the awareness of people on importance of buying local products. So yes, and the last question, yes, can we also get it on the screen? Thank you. So yes, how can insurance industry think into the social entrepreneurship concept, particularly insurance intermediaries that are providing services related to insurance contracts? Anybody would like to give a try on this and answer to Vladimir? While we are thinking about the answer, thank you, Mirjana, for the comment. And a few greetings from Mirjana. Mirjana is usually a regular speaker on the Social Innovation Forum, so it's good to see that you are listening and watching the conference. So yes, I don't know, the insurance industry can for sure provide some know-how probably and mentoring, I don't know, and help maybe enterprises in assessing some contracts that they are getting into. I can think about more answers, but yeah, I don't know. If anybody else has something to add, Pirko, please.
Yeah, we are working closely with different corporations. So one way is definitely to have your very strong CSR strategy and think where you want to invest long-term, which type of organizations or which type of social impact you want to create with your organization for it to be meaningful. And one is money, but the other is also that you have a lot of competencies. You have a lot of smart people working in your company. So they could help with communications, with sort of finance plans, sort of go and sort of be this sort of professional volunteers helping with their professional knowledge and providing hours that if this maybe starting or growing NGO would need to buy from the market, sort of they couldn't afford it. So this is your opportunity to provide like an hour or a day or a week for somebody who is well known, who is very good in what he or she does. And this is also an excellent way to make CSR meaningful, in that sense that people actually know where you are sort of putting your hours and your money, and they can sort of go out and be sort of advocates both for your company, but also for the social enterprises, because they know so much more. And the minute you meet these people, you sort of fell in love in a sort of intellectual way, because it's such a great thing that they do every day, and you don't get to meet them usually. So.
Yes. Thank you so much, Pirko. Yes, we are discussing here a lot about access to finance as a problem, but actually social businesses and as any other businesses need much more than only access to finance, mentoring, support, access to market promotion. There are different ways of how private sector, donors, investors, anybody can contribute to really growing this sector and making its full potential. With this, I would like to close this session. I would like to thank a lot to all the great speakers that we had on this session and previous session. Thank you so much for finding time to join us. And I do hope that in next year and next SIF we will have opportunity to host you live, not only in this virtual space, even though it has some advantages. So with this, I would like also to close today's official streaming conference. We will have now a short 10 minutes or so break. And then we will have a closed event for impact investors, where we will actually present the first generation of investment-ready enterprises from our own Smart Impact program. So thank you one more time to everyone that have watched together today's conference and participated as speaker. And stay with us the whole week. Tomorrow we are speaking about the young social innovators and how we can better support them. And the Wednesday, it's about green economy. Thursday, it's about responsible businesses and SDGs. And for Friday, it's reserved for workshops for social enterprises. So thank you one more time, and see you later or tomorrow. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.
Bye.
Bye. Thank you.